the first and foremost is understand the audience you're pitching to, which in this case are investors, their wants, their needs, their desires, what they want, what they want more than anything. They do not care about how good your idea is. They want a return on investment, right? That's what they want, and that's what you need to sell to them, the potential exit come the end of the journey. And so that's the main thing. And then giving yourself the time to organize the campaign, not expecting things to just happen straight away. I think a lot of founders leave it too late. Having a proper sales cycle, having a proper kind of campaign that leads up. If you want to raise investment by a certain date, you need to work back in the same way. If your business is looking to achieve X millions in revenue by the end of the next financial year, you need to work way ahead of time to fill the funnel, get the leads, get them through to the sales guys, so then they can go and close the business.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a more modern approach to selling, the application of virtual and hybrid selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by James Church. James is co-founder of Robot Mascot, which is an investment readiness agency, and he's also the author of The Investable Entrepreneur. So James, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Regular listeners might be thinking, hang on a minute, what are we doing here talking about investment and things? We're going down a bit of a different route. But just tell me, what does an investment readiness agency do?
Sure. So we prepare businesses for raising investment, kind of as it says on the tin, perhaps. But it's about preparing them with the materials they need to close the deal, and taking them through a process of how to manage that campaign. So it's very similar to any given sales process. In fact, I like to think of it as companies have shares to in their business. They're one of their most valuable commodities. And a lot of founders and businesses think that raising investment is like they're giving away shares, but what you're actually doing is selling them. And when you look at fundraising through the lens of selling this valuable commodity, which is your shares, to someone else, it completely changes your perspective on why you need to do the things that you need to do to actually get the deal over the line.
Yeah, and that's what struck me when I read your book. That came across loud and clear. It's like, change your thinking to that you're not giving stuff away, you are selling something. So, I mean, we were chatting just before, weren't we, where you're saying it's like seek, meet, convert, basically. And it's like, well, that's sales then.
Basically a B2B sales process. And you have to see your shares have a certain value, and the person who's buying them needs to see something of equal or greater value that they're getting in return for their cash, just like buying any product. If you don't see equal or greater value in the thing you're buying, you're not going to buy it. And it's the same is true with shares. If I'm going to buy shares in your company, if I'm going to invest in your company, what I'm getting in return, these shares need to be of equal or greater value to the amount of money I'm going to be investing into your business.
Yeah, and so it sounds like what you have been doing, and you were telling me what you're doing even more is getting people to take that kind of sales mentality. That's how you're preparing them, and that you've been working up a kind of a bit of a new, or is it brand new, or is it a sort of a rejigged?
The last sort of 12 months or so, we've sort of been expanding more into the kind of campaign strategy side. So we used to, or we currently do, and what we're real experts in is preparing founders for investment, getting, if you like, all their sales collateral together. And that was the breakthrough moment for our business, was realizing that founders were putting together pitch materials, financial projections, business plans, and they weren't thinking about them as the sales collateral for doing a deal. So we kind of took this kind of communication angle, this brand communication angle, to these kind of boring corporate assets, and looking at them as, the business plan, the financials, the pitch materials are basically sales materials. They're your brochures and your proposal documents that you might use in a sales environment. And once we gave them that treatment, we completely transformed the way those documents work to create the opportunity to close a deal. We're now looking at, and for the last sort of 12 to 18 months, I've been working with founders on sort of a one-to-one basis, developing this approach to creating more of a marketing campaign or a sales campaign around, you've got these assets in place now, you're ready to go and start pitching for the deal, but how do you actually find the right investors to pitch to? How do you pitch to them? And how do you get in front of them? How do you nurture them? How do you get them over the line and close the deal? And we call that campaign ready. And it's kind of a support service, a campaign support service where we teach people how to go through a process and create kind of a campaign that leaves investors with FOMO, this sort of fear of missing out on this incredible opportunity, and create this position where you can be overfunded. You've got more investors wanting to do business with you than you actually need, and you create this fear of missing out, this situation where investors are fighting over shares, which, as you'll know, if you're selling anything, when you're in that position,
brilliant position to be in.
You can get a better deal.
Oh no, wicked. So, I mean, would it be fair to say then that before people come to you, that the sales decks and pitches might be a little bit too self-centered? Me, we, all about that, which is kind of,
absolutely.
You'd imagine that's what you want, because you've got to tell people about your business and what you do, don't you?
Yeah, so they focus on ideas and possibilities and opportunities, and they fail to realize that their target audience, in this case investors, care about risk and assets and proof and implementation and kind of all of the things. No founder starts a company and goes, you know what I want to do this morning? Risk analysis. No one does it, right? But as a founder seeking investment, you need to start thinking about the target audience you're selling to, and what is it that they want to hear about? What do they have on their checklist to make sure that this is a sensible opportunity and that they actually close the deal and exchange on the contracts? So you start thinking about your target audience, and then that forces you to start talking about risk and assets and proof and implementation and all of the boring stuff, and not so much on how great my idea is and look how clever I am. I've built this amazing thing that's going to be a unicorn by Christmas.
By Christmas, yeah, not just a unicorn by Christmas. Yeah. But I mean, already salespeople listen to this and we think, well, where's the big news there? Of course, you start with your target audience, work out who is your customer, who's your prospect, and then start, working around that. So it makes sense to sort of go through your process, the thing you've been developing, and let's just compare and contrast. Have a little bit of fun, language you're using, cool. How a founder might be using that. Because we talked about all sorts of industrial and different sorts of products, but I think we're going to hear so much useful for anybody in B2B.
Yeah, cool. No, absolutely. So it's interesting. I mean, it is obvious, isn't it, to start with your target audience, and that's, as sales professionals, that's what you do every day, and marketing professionals, that's my background, is marketing. But when you're a founder with this new shiny idea, you can forget that, and you end up focusing on the wrong things. So it's about, and just because they could be great. A lot of our founders are great at selling their product to their audience because they know their customer inside out. But they're having to sell something new, shares, to a new audience, investors, and they completely lose the plot. They completely forget everything that we've been taught about. And I'm sure that's happened to perhaps some of your listeners when a new product's launched and you're excited about all the features and the bells and whistles of this new product, and you forget to bring it back to who are you selling this to and what's the benefit.
Happens all the time. Or new salespeople, they'll have days and days, weeks of product training, and then like sort of a couple of hours, maybe, hopefully, of sales training. So naturally, you kind of go back to your comfort zone of, well, that's what I know how to speak about. I'll talk about all that stuff.
That's it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is new product, new people. You need to get your head around what it's useful for them.
Always bring yourself back to that target audience. So in terms of, I mean, that's what we do. That's kind of preparing founders for that investment campaign, and now they need to, once they've got all those documents in place and they're ready with the sales pitch, if you like, for equity, the process we take people through, it's very much like any B2B sales process, I think, but you are the expert in selling, so you tell me. But the first step for us is targeting, right? Find investor target list, do your research, and create a list of 300 plus potential investors that align to your business. So they've invested in your type of business in the past, or they've invested the amount of money you're looking for in the past. So for your listeners, we have kind of different levels of investment round, like pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B, Series C, and so on. So if you're looking for a pre-seed round, there's no point going and pitching to a Series A investor. You need to go and find some pre-seed investors. So you need to just create a target list of 300 plus potential investors that have invested in your space, have invested in your niche, invest at your level of development, and then start reaching out to them. That's the second step. You can organize that target list in order of priority. Those most likely to invest, the best fit, down to those least likely to invest. Then that opens a bit of a question for our founders. Which ones do I start with? Do I practice on those least likely to invest and get some notches on my belt, and then work my way up to those most likely to invest? Or am I confident enough to go pitch to those who are most likely to invest, get some early wins, and then go down the funnel, down the list, and kind of go, we've already got a few investors on board, we've already got 50% of our round committed, and give them some confidence and some social proof that there's something here, there's something exciting. So
what do most of them say? Go on, secret
most
safe
of
here.
them
Do most of them
start
back themselves going, I'm great at this?
most
Come
of them
on.
start from the bottom,
Oh, okay.
do the middle, and then go to the top and work
Right.
down. That's probably if you're not confident in your
Yeah.
ability to pitch, it's probably practice on those who probably weren't going to invest anyway.
Yeah.
Try and get a meeting with them, test your outreach campaign. If it works and you get some confidence, you can then go to the top of the list, get some early wins, and then tackle the ones in the middle. That's probably the best approach. But different
Not all.
not always.
Straight in at the top.
Right. It depends who those people at the top are, right? If that person at the top is an advisor in your business already, or is someone that you've had a relationship with the last 5-10 years, then you're probably in a position it's not such a formal pitch, it's probably a chat over coffee, and perhaps you can get some early wins.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you're talking about the fit. And as you said, it's like, are they investing in the right space? Have they got the right kind of level of investment? Do you also talk to people about, and are they the right kind of people? Do you look kind of at that psychological fit? That, and I talk about partnering skills. I mean, they're not going to be your partner as such, but you're going to have to work with them. You have to get on with them. Do you get people thinking like that?
Isn't there? Because they're going to be with you involved in your business for, well, until you sell it, or until they decide to sell their shares. And depending on the dynamic, they may have a NED role in the business. They may want weekly, quarterly meetings to go through things, to go through the business and want. So there is a long-term relationship there. So what we suggest to our founders is an expression of interest form. And again, this is something borrowed from sales, right? So you might do a presentation and get people to express a level of interest, and then they're the ones you need to follow up with to close the deal. And likewise, we suggest to founders they might ask for an expression of interest, and the way they do that is get them to fill in a short form with a few questions. And some of those questions might be, what else can you bring to the table other than money? Because it's not just about cash. It could be a black book of contacts that are really useful. Are you a passive or an active investor? What's your investment style? Do you just throw money into a company and then just leave it, or do you want to be quite active and involved in some board level discussions? And then you can start to paint a picture. So founders are doing their due diligence on the client, I suppose, the person they're selling to, the partner they're bringing into the business before. And it's a bit like testing the water. If you're in a consultancy type business, or you don't necessarily just take any client that comes along, only those where there's going to be a good fit and you can definitely get them a result, because otherwise it's not worth your reputation. And it's that same thinking.
Yeah. And this comes across as, well, less needy. I'll have money off anyone. I don't care. Just pass it over here. But also that you are serious about what you're doing, and almost people can be a bit more comfortable in that you've got a robust approach to this, and not just
they could be turned away, and therefore if they really want this, that'll shine through, right? So and it's the same, like whenever I've done sales training, it's kind of making it always easy for the prospect to say no, not getting kind of a slow no, or kind of just going along kind of following them up, but saying it's okay if it's not the right fit. And that changes the dynamic of the sales conversation. And again, all of these principles can be used in fundraising.
Which is why you're advising a list of 300, not 3.
Yeah.
Because then you can be way more selective with that.
And not every investor will see you as the right fit as well. They'll have their own checklist of requirements. You're not necessarily the right fit. So if you start with a decent number, you can then whittle those down to 5 or so that are the perfect fit. And we want to get into a position where you're overfunded. You've got more investors than you need. So if you can get 10 people interested and you've only got space for 5 of them, you can be in that lovely position where you kind of ring them up and say, I've got some good news and bad news. We're ready to close our round. Bad news is that some investors are going to miss out. We've got 10 people committed, totaling 1 million in investment. We were only looking for 500k. We're massively overfunded. You were one of my top pick investors. We'd love to have you on as part of our journey. We need to know by the end of the week whether or not you're interested, so we can instruct our lawyers to send out the heads of terms and start the legal process of closing the round. Suddenly you're in this position where you're creating that classic kind of environment of like, there's a time-bound sort of urgency. There's loads of social proof and reassurance that they're making the right decision because other people are interested. They're going to miss out if they don't make a decision quickly. And suddenly the table's completely turned from a situation where most founders feel like uncomfortable asking for money and that they feel like they might be begging for cash, to actually, I don't need your money. I want you if you want in, because I've got other people that are willing to invest in me. And suddenly it completely changes the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah, and the relationship moving forward. Yeah. So we've done targeting, we've reached out. Sounds as though we actually might have skipped on a little bit there. So
we've done some outreach, which could email, phone calls, networking, building relationships. Okay.
Next step then. Next part of the process.
So there's 4 steps, and the next is capturing interest. So we've kind of briefly talked about that in terms of, you go out, you start pitching, you use your sales materials, your pitch, your business plan, your financials, you go through this due diligence process, which is not too dissimilar, I don't think, from doing that initial sales presentation, then writing a full proposal, then perhaps presenting from, maybe you're initially presenting to, the marketing director, and then you have to go and present to the full board. It's that similar process of kind of going through the mechanics of procurement, I suppose, and getting them all lined up and ready to make the deal happen. And then it's closing. The final step is closing.
Just going back, maybe there is an element of difference in this world. So I just want to explore that, where it's, we've targeted, we've reached out, but if I understand it well, it's more likely that you will be doing a pitch quite early. So you go into transmit mode fast. Whereas I'd be training salespeople, it's like, no, leave the deck at home. Pretend you even got one. Ask more questions. Really do the discovery piece first and really get an understanding of their needs and how you can work with them. From what I understand in your world, actually, you do go into having to give your information early doors up. Or am I wrong?
But again, the way that we would be teaching that, the way we'd be explaining it to our clients, is to not fall into that trap. Because what most founders do is, there's a potential investor, I'm going to send them my pitch and I'm going to say, hi, I'm Leanne. I've got this amazing company. I'm looking to raise 500k for 15% equity. Attached is my pitch. Let me know if you're interested. For me, that's the equivalent of a cold call. No one likes cold call. They don't know who you are from Adam. You're asking for 500k of their money. Like, no, go away. See you later. So we would, in this, once you've got that target list, this promotional part is very much about relationship building. And the best way to reach out to an investor is either, like on LinkedIn. You've got 3 approaches on LinkedIn that you could connect with an investor. One is in a connection request. You go, hey, I'm raising investment. I'm looking for 500k. Here's a link to my pitch. Shall we connect? No one's going to accept that connection request.
I believe the popular terminology for that is a pitch slap.
Option 2 is to be a bit more, be open up front and kind of say, I'm Johnny. I've got this business. We've hit a couple of these key milestones. I noticed you invest in businesses like mine in a similar niche. I'm probably looking to open an investment round in the next few months. Just wanted to get on your radar, start a conversation. More likely to have an investor accept that. Most angel investors kind of hunt deals and hunt founders. And then the job is to make sure you're posting content on LinkedIn, keeping them updated on progress and showcasing how awesome you are as a business. The final option from talking to investors is actually just to connect with them with no message, because they'll probably accept it as long as you don't follow up with the hard sell as a private DM afterwards, and you just start putting content out there, engaging with their posts, and kind of start to build a relationship more organically.
Right. So this is why you're talking campaign. It's right.
Campaign.
You're going to need money then. The earlier you start, the better, because it's
That's
more
it.
time for you to be putting your stuff out,
Building
cranking it up a little bit, telling a
it.
story all along the way.
That's it. And
That's
if you're doing cold outreach to these 300 investors via email, and this is something we do for our clients as a service, it's exactly the same principle. You don't go in all guns blazing, here's my pitch. It's more, we would do some social listening perhaps and kind of go, hey Barry, loved your recent post on X, Y, and Z. I'm James. I'm a founder of Robot Mascot in the XYZ space. You know, they're interested in this space. We've recently achieved A, B, C, and D. Looking to raise investment in the next 6 months. When we're ready, is it worth us sending you the pitch materials? Much more likely to get a response saying, yeah, when you're ready, let's chat, than if you're going straight in for the kill.
And and if you're doing a nice job, then some chats, some conversations might happen organically. So actually, no, that's interesting. Let's jump on a call. So they're asking you now, and you think, well, that's a bonus. I'm getting a little bit more information across. But then again, hopefully the coaching is to now then don't whip the slide deck out in front of them. Have a conversation.
Still keep to that. We would say to investors, like, let's do to founders, let's do plan sort of 1 to 2 months worth of outreach, and then have a series maybe in that kind of capturing interest phase I talked about. That might be a 2-week period where you book back-to-back meetings with investors, because that allows you to create that sense of FOMO, which we can talk about in a minute. But if you've got that point in time where you're accepting meetings from investors and doing the pitches, then even when you get that call, it's not jumping straight into the sales pitch. It's kind of, you've already told them that you're not opening the round, you're not taking on anything until a later date. So you can use that to kind of find out what they want, right? So when you're investing in businesses, what are you looking for? What's important to you? What should I be making sure is in my pitch to make sure you have everything you need to make an informed decision? And then you can start getting the information you need to include in that presentation when you go and meet them.
So capture interest could be equally as much as show interest, because that's what we train salespeople to do. Is like, to be interested makes you interesting, and so it's that two-way thing going on at that stage.
That's it. So the capture interest phase is really, that's when the real pitching starts, and most founders skip straight to that. I'm going to pitch my investment, and that comes once you've built that relationship and that rapport. And everyone imagines it's like whip out the slide deck and go through it, but that could be a meeting in a coffee shop where that's not appropriate, and then your pitch deck is used more as a, it'd be weird if you got out your laptop and a clicker and started doing that in a coffee shop. You want to, you talk about that information in a conversation, and you go through. It may not be in the same order as your slides, but you talk about all that information more organically with the founders. So they're not always formal pitch events in that phase, but the idea of getting everyone booked in a short space of time is to create that FOMO effect, because rather than the drips and drabs of kind of saying, I've got, maybe you meet with that first investor that gave you some kind of signal of interest and get straight on a call, and they're like, how's it going? Oh yeah, I've got a couple of investor meetings kind of lined up in the next few weeks, a few people that seem interested via email, just waiting for them to do something. Instead, if you gone through a process of booking everyone in a short 1 to 2 week period, you can actually go into that first meeting and be, so excited, we've just launched our funding campaign, we've got 15 investor meetings lined up this week, we've got another 10 lined up next week. There's something here, like this is exciting.
I want to get me.
I don't even need you to pitch, like where do I sign up? I want to express interest, because if there's so many other people buzzing around it, and you're setting yourself up for that final closing call where you're saying good news, bad news that we talked about earlier, because they can see you're showcasing, you're being very, very upfront about the interest you have. Only works if it's true. You shouldn't go in and lie about these things, but you can talk about this stuff, and they get a sense of momentum. At the end of the week, you can go, I've had 15 really good meetings, I've got four expressions of interest, I've got another 10 lined up. You can keep that. They're going, wow, there's something here, like I need to take this seriously. I need to explore this further. So it's just creating that FOMO effect by condensing what founders currently do in a drip fed approach of just kind of whenever I get an investor, I'm straight in, all guns blazing, like doing the pitch, and actually just taking your time and getting them to all into a position at the same time, so you can then pitch and close all in one place.
Oh, that's cool. And then the good news, bad news. So yeah, it's all very choreographed. I'm not sure whether many B2B can do it like this, but I mean, for me, it's a fascinating take on this, and it's what you're training quite. It sounds like it's quite different to what a lot of other people, well, not necessarily train, but are certainly doing, which is the deck and off we go and talk.
There's certainly not many people talking about the marketing, the sales, the campaign process of this. There's people out there that advise on financials or might help you with your pitch deck, and that's what we've become really known for, with global award winners and work with clients all over the world to do this stuff. But the next big step is usually, right, I've got all these materials, and now what? It's a bit like they've built this e-commerce website and this new brand, and now they're like, oh crap, I haven't sorted out how I'm going to do any marketing to get any leads. And it's like, now, can you introduce me to some investors? Well, no, we're not a broker and we don't know every investor on the planet, but you can run a campaign you should know as a founder how to find investors and sell to them, because that's a fundamental job of any founder.
Because you said your background is marketing.
Yes.
And your co-founder is also branding, I think, and storytelling.
And advertising background. Yeah.
So that's the speciality you're bringing. That's what's going to set you apart. And then the technical, I mean, you talk about heads of terms and expressions of interest and all that sort of stuff. It's like, well, yeah, we can get other experts to do that.
Absolutely.
We're going to set you apart by coming across as so slick or cool or just genuine, or whatever the branding is meant to be.
About communication. Like if you can nail the communication around this, from pitch materials, but all the way through the funnel, if you like, from initial outreach down to close. You manage that communication, and if you can organize that campaign in the right way, you're gonna give yourself 40, 100-fold increase in your ability to raise investment, because it's a managed process. And like you said, you look more organized, and therefore you evoke more trust. You're not just making this up as you go along, and therefore they're more likely to buy from you. They're more likely to buy your shares.
Yeah. Managed process, evoking trust. Now we're talking about stuff that anybody in any sale should be looking to try to achieve. Cool. So so you said 4 stages. We looked at each of those. Let me just double check on those: targeting, reaching out, creating interest, closing. Any other key elements? Any other things that is just worthwhile that's going on in your world that might be useful for people in a kind of a more classic B2B role?
What do you mean by that? Like what
other stuff you're doing? What am I missing out on? So I mean, a lot of this stuff, we can totally recognize. I guess what I'm saying is it was a badly phrased question. I think I need some communication skills training. Any hot hints and tips, any other like real do's and don'ts that you're saying to founders, because they'll probably translate across.
So many, but it's the first and foremost is understand the audience you're pitching to, which in this case of investors, their wants, their needs, their desires, what they want. What they want more than anything. They do not care about how good your idea is. They want a return on investment. Right, that's what they want, and that's what you need to sell to them, the potential exit come the end of the journey. And so that's the main thing. And then giving yourself the time to organize the campaign, not expecting things to just happen straight away. I think a lot of founders leave it too late. Having a proper sales cycle, having a proper kind of campaign that leads up. If you want to raise investment by a certain date, you need to work back in the same way. If your business is looking to achieve X millions in revenue by the end of the next financial year, you need to work way ahead of time to fill the funnel, get the leads, get them through to the sales guys, so then they can go and close the business. So it's having that kind of mindset of like planning this out over a 6 to 12 month period, rather than I'm going to go raise investment and then where do I get investors from? And just try and just do it all within a week.
knocking up a deck while you're thinking and sort of making a story
That's
up
it.
and doing
And
something
probably,
and seeing a bit of advice and doing that, and then another bit of advice and doing that instead.
yeah,
And
yeah. I
looking
mean,
at
there's so much advice out there, and it's difficult to know who to trust and who to believe, because there's just so many contradictory pieces of advice sometimes, and it can be confusing. But I think that's the same with any, like, must be in your world, like
oh yeah,
everyone's a sales expert, like, so
and,
no.
and there's that many different sorts of sales as well, from SaaS to the more traditional classic. Well, so yeah, you're right. Oh, that's brilliant. That is very cool. Where can people get in touch? Well, I don't know if there'll be any founders. I think there might be, but there might be people who just want to have a look and maybe pick up your book and some of the things that you do, just to pull these different ideas in. I'm all for cross-pollinating and sort of grabbing different ideas from different places. So where
I mean,
can they
that's
get in touch?
essentially what this business is, right? It's been cross-fertilized from
Yeah.
sales and marketing to
Yeah.
apply to investment. So you could, well, if you go to the Robot Mascot website, robotmascot.co.uk, you can get a free copy of my book from there. There's loads of articles around campaign planning and more broadly raising investment. There's podcasts, there's all sorts. So yeah, probably the website is the best place to go for anything you might want.
Brilliant. We will pop a link to that into the show notes and do that. And oh yeah, the obvious question: why robot mascot? What have robots got to do with it?
Yeah. So you have to thank my business partner for that, Nick. He's the brand guy. So robot. So we, as a company, we always wanted to work with kind of pioneers, innovators, future thinkers, these interesting and new concepts. Now, we started life as a brand agency and kind of pivoted into this space once we realized we could apply our skill set to an interesting niche. So it was all about, but we wanted to work with those exciting kind of startup businesses, the next unicorns. That's who we wanted to be doing these projects with. So the robot kind of represented the future and the types of clients that we wanted to work with and attract. But robots on their own are they're always sort of painted in popular culture as kind of taking over the world. They're the evil guys. They're not necessarily particularly well associated, sort of, they don't evoke the right emotion for a service-based company. And a core part of our ethos was to be friends and allies to founders and to guide them and to coach them and to get them through this really difficult process. So the mascot part was softening it a bit, meant kind of we become your biggest fans along the journey. We're your mascots. And the two things sounded pretty good together, and it was really unique and very memorable, and therefore made the perfect brand name. So yeah, that's the story behind it.
And people like me ask a question like that, and you get to tell a story. And stories
Absolutely,
work.
that's it. Yeah. And we get that question lots, and it's we get remember, you're the robot guys, or it's pretty good. Yeah, it sticks.
Oh, it's very good. It sticks, and so hopefully some of the I'm sure, I'm sure some of the things that you said will stick to people who listen to this. So
Hopefully.
no, brilliant. Thank you for spending some time
Thanks
sharing
for
some of
having
that.
me. No, really enjoyed it. So thank you.
No, real pleasure. You've been listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. If you like what you've heard, why not subscribe so you know when the latest episodes become available? Take a look at my YouTube channel. All episodes are available there, along with extra material all about modern selling. Connect with me on LinkedIn, where I'll share more information around collaborative selling. All part of my mission around having good people doing good things in a good way.